Greetings, acolytes of the Force, and welcome back to the archives. The amethyst blade, the purple lightsaber color, is one of the most popular amongst those of us who observe a galaxy far, far away. The violet hue is one that carries an immense amount of symbolism, possibly more than any other color of lightsaber, and very specific people are selected to wield such a blade. The responsibility of wielding a purple lightsaber is representative of one's wider view on the Force itself. Made known by Mace Windu, whose Vapaad style strikes something of a balance between the light and the dark, purple is often said to symbolize the balance in the Force within those that wield it. Typically, it is the Jedi that will wield purple lightsabers, with the reason not always being apparent as to why, as the blade is exceedingly rare. But what's even more interesting, on why the esoteric Sith would wield such a color. In fact, there are only really two Sith Lords of note who ever publicly used purple lightsabers, and that would be the Sith Lords Darth Revan and Darth Traya. Two individuals who were contrarian to the Sith in their own right, were legendary and yet scorned. The reason it is so shocking to see a Sith Lord wield a purple blade is because the Sith as a whole actually hated the purple bladed lightsabers with a bloody passion. More so, in fact, than any other lightsaber color. So why is this? And why were Revan and Traya the only ones to get away with wielding this color lightsaber? Well, my friends, all that and more will be answered in today's holocron. But before we begin our studies, we would like to thank today's sponsor, Onasaber. At the end of this holocron, Onasaber will be showcasing some of their brand new July designs, including the Wrathbearer saber where you can get custom engravings. So if that interests you, stay tuned till the end, acolytes. Now, let us begin. There is often a heated debate as to what violet actually symbolizes when it comes to those that wield it. Because the color is a cross between the Jedi blue and the Sith red, many immediately jump to believing it means a balance struck between the two of them. But this in fact is not accurate, at least not in the majority of cases that we see the blade. Many would point to Mace Windu and his use of Vapaad as finding balance between the light and the dark, but there's a problem with this perspective, and that is that Mace Windu openly despised the dark side and everything to do with it. To say that he found balance is to say that he compromised with the dark side, which is something he would never do. What Mace Windu did do though was observe and acknowledge that he had darkness within him, a darkness that he would not allow to control him. Vapaad does not reflect your own use in the dark side, but rather the opponent's darkness back onto them, forcing them to fight themselves like a mirror image. This may sound a bit convoluted, but there is a fine line there, and it is stated in multiple novels and comic books that Mace Windu despises the dark side and is vigilant against it. Vapaad is Mace Windu's way of hurting Darksiders the best way possible. But what does this have to do with the color of his lightsaber? This all goes to show that the purple blade is far more nuanced than just being a balance in the Force. Most times, it represents the user acknowledging that they are affiliated with the light side, but that they have parts that are dark within them. An acknowledgement of their weakness. When it comes to the Sith, this sentiment is somewhat reserved, however. Darth Revan is depicted wielding a purple blade as well as a red lightsaber in tandem with one another. It is known that Revan's purple lightsaber was representational of the fact that he was once a Jedi, but that he saw the truth of what the Jedi had become and what he would need to embrace to actually make a greater change in the galaxy. The Jedi Council had turned their back on the wider galaxy during the Mandalorian Wars, and millions of people were dying. Revan and his followers went out without the permission of the wider order and took care of the problem directly. While the galaxy regarded Revan as a hero, the Jedi regarded him as a renegade. The Jedi of Revan's age were cowardly and sloppy, and Revan's purple blade was a call for change. It was not representative of one's balance within the Force, but actually an acknowledgement that there was hope for the light side, but that perhaps they need to embrace the dark in order to make it effective. This is the reasoning why Revan used a red lightsaber right alongside the purple blade. What's fascinating though, is Revan would actually have his purple lightsaber switch to a green crystal when returning from the dark side, with the green signifying his maturity and understanding of the Force itself. And perhaps that even his original goal was flawed. Darth Traya is a completely different story though, again going along with the fact that the purple represents different things. Traya used many lightsabers, blue as a Jedi, green while disguised as a Jedi, red while a Sith, and finally she wielded 3 purple lightsabers at once. In fact, Traya would die using 3 purple blades. What's interesting is that each of these lightsabers were likely her blue, green, and red lightsabers originally, but she actively decided to switch the blade coloration to purple. So why was this? Traya's outlook on the Force was unlike any before or after her. She knew the Force was alive, but hated it. She was a strong believer in the will of the Force, and believed it to be some sort of apathetic deity that used people for its own purposes, before ultimately casting them aside. She wanted to get rid of the Force, rid all beings from it. And by doing this, she believed that she had to master the Force completely, merging the ideals of Jedi and Sith, effectively abolishing both orders in the process and creating a single new one. This kind of madness echoes the sentiments of the Rule of Two era Darth Revan, although Darth Traya was much more thorough. Traya was indeed a master of the Force, both sides of it, and that is why she wielded 3 amethyst blades. Not only did she fight with them using telekinesis, showcasing a mastery over a technique the likes of which are far too advanced for even the most experienced duelists, but again the color represented her total mastery. They didn't represent a balance in the Force, or acknowledging dark and light together, but it rather was a statement that she basically said, this distinction does not matter. The Force in its entirety is mine to command, not the other way around. What's important to note is that by the end of her life, Darth Traya actively hated Revan, essentially believing he was everything wrong with the Force, and even disdainfully referred to him as the heart of the Force. She believed that Revan's redemption marked weakness within him. In the end though, although brilliant and extremely powerful, Darth Traya would eventually go mad. But now that we've mentioned the meaning of these 3 amethyst blades, why do the Sith loathe them so much? The Sith Order's reasoning for hating the purple color of a lightsaber is quite simple and straightforward. They found it to be an absolute perversion of the dark side. The Sith consider themselves purists and take delight in corruption. But in the opinion of the Sith, if one were to dabble with the dark side, they needed to embrace it fully. The Sith believe in the death of one's previous life and the identity that came before it, and thus the rebirth as a Dark Lord. They even look to the dark side to give them brand new names, a new Darth moniker. The purple is an acknowledgement of the existence of the light, abhorrent to any Sith worth their name. The reason Revan and Traya took this purple color is no other Sith could stop them from doing so at the time. Yes, the reconstituted Sith Empire was lurking in the shadows of the unknown regions. However, Vitiate was far too wise and calculated to care enough about what lightsaber one was wielding. In fact, he saw it as a glorified distraction. Vitiate didn't even consider Revan or Malak pure Sith because they did not destroy their former selves, keeping their names, holding on to their old lives, which is actually quite appropriate in considering that Revan had a purple blade. And on that note, Vitiate never had any bother with Traya. But in the end, my friends and acolytes, this is what the purple amethyst blade represents among the Sith and Jedi alike, as well as why the Sith hated it more than any other lightsaber color. And with that, I would like to introduce you to Onasaber's July Wrathbearer collection. May the Force be with you.